After your first 10 rentals, it's paid for. So then it's just the cost of you and one dude. You're looking at a pretty significant return on investment after those 10 rentals. You're just
Yes.
factoring in your time and maybe one other person's time. You're probably storing in a garage. So you can be making close to probably 70 to 80% profit on those. It's an insane business. It's one of the few businesses that you can bootstrap from nothing, start making a lot of money, and just sky's the limit.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show that is laser focused to inspire you to start or to scale your side hustle income streams. I'm your host, Joan Posavy, author of The Way Success Works. If you've been part of the Side Hustle Hero community for a little while, you know that I'm a fan of tangible, easy to understand businesses with great margins. So when I came across the tent guy, I was intrigued. He's Adam Keller, and while his party rental business now boasts revenues of over $700,000, he started with renting just 3 tents. He worked that first summer at a gas station and cleaning hotel rooms to save the money to buy tables and chairs for the next season. I love a good entrepreneurial story. His tips and advice are practical and actionable. By the end of this episode, you'll have a solid overview of the tent party rental industry, including pricing, startup costs, valuable financial do's and don'ts like what to spend your money on and where you should take a pass. And while you're plotting your side hustle success, if you're enjoying what you're hearing in this podcast and you'd like to show your support, a fun way is to head on over to sidehustlehero.com/support, where you can shoot me over a large soy latte or maybe a double espresso. It really is a thing at sidehustlehero.com/support. Thank you from the bottom of my coffee cup. And if you're not already a subscriber, please join us by hitting the subscribe button. It just takes a sec and really helps our ranking. Thank you so much. Now here is my conversation with the tent guy, Adam Keller. Well, welcome, Adam.
Thank you for having me.
Well, on the surface, at least, a party tent rental business seems like really straightforward, easy to understand business, which I love, and we'll get you to explain how that works. But first, how did you get involved?
So I had a roommate in college who worked for a company that was out of 2 cities. So I went to college in Buffalo, New York. He was out of Rochester.
Okay.
So they had a presence in Buffalo too. And so he would occasionally work with them. So I would go and, just show up at a job site and do what they needed me to do.
Right.
And then I parlayed that reference into a summer job locally when I came back at a party rental company. And that's when I started seeing how much, they were getting for these tents and stuff. And I was like, I could do this. So 2 weeks before I graduated college, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
So I just maxed out a bunch of credit cards, cashed in some bonds that my grandmother and grandfather were buying me, and
wow.
bought some tents. And this was back when it was phone book time. And the paper, you put ads in the paper.
Yep.
So I just put ads in the local newspaper. And then we have this thing up in the Northeast called the Penny Saver, where it's just it was just a bunch of classifieds.
Right.
And then I just started booking tents, and I didn't really know I was going to do it forever. I was just, making money. And back then it was all cash. So I'm this 22-year-old dude with just a bunch of cash every weekend.
You must have been pretty popular.
Yeah. And then I didn't know how to say no, really. So I just kept saying yes to things that I didn't have, like bigger tents and whatever. And I just accidentally kind of grew to a point where I didn't need a job anymore. And during this time, I had various jobs. And then I got what I thought was going to be a career job at an insurance company. But I don't like working in cubicles and drama. And anyone who's ever worked in an office just kind of knows it's annoying.
So this was your out. So how many tents did you end up with back then?
So everyone always asks, how many tents do you have? It's never about that.
Okay.
It's never judging how big you are about the tents. It's basically how much work you get. So I could say 6 tents and that seems like nothing, but those 6 tents could make 200,000 in a year. And other party rental companies try to ask you the same question, but they should know that it's not about how many tents you have. It's just
Okay.
what you have and how much you charge and how much jobs you get.
Well, that was very observant on your part as a part-time employee. not just going to work part-time, getting a few bucks in your pocket, but actually taking a look at the operation and thinking, "Hey, there's money here. Maybe I can do this." Or it
Yeah.
sounded like you were pretty confident that you can, do it. So did you start out with 1 tent?
I started out with just 3 tents with
Okay.
no tables and chairs. So I worked that whole summer at a gas station and cleaning hotel rooms to save up enough to buy tables and chairs for the next year because I had said yes to them for the next year.
So these days, what are people looking at for, say, startup costs if they're starting it as a side hustle, maybe on the weekends?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I'm doing this like kind of beta test thing that we're calling the weekend warrior, where we're taking
Nice.
these people for 6 weeks and teaching them how to start up basically with no money. And it's weekend warrior because a lot of like established priority rental companies will degrade, talk down about these guys who are working out of their garage or a shed or whatever, and just say, oh, those are just weekend warriors. But really, everyone
Mm,
started as a weekend kind of guy. So I know exactly how much it starts because I'm doing this. It's about $2,000 to start. You would buy a 20 by 20 tent, 50 chairs, and 6 tables. And that's your basic. And that gets you started. And then from there, you just keep taking the money and buying other tents or buying more tables and chairs. But it's about $2,000 to start with just one complete setup and then go on from there.
okay, great. That's pretty clear. And so that's your startup costs for those items, but what are some costs that someone wouldn't anticipate or is maybe even you were surprised by when you got into the business?
Well, you need a vehicle to transport these. So if you only got a sedan, it's not
Right.
good.
Yeah.
You could get away with an SUV. So vehicle is a big one. And then as you get larger and start getting more insurance requirements, then that's pretty big. Like I only got insurances as I needed them for doing certain jobs. They're like, "Oh, we need this insurance. We need to see your workers' comp."
Right.
That's the way it's not good to say, but that's how a lot of people start. You just don't have all the insurances that you should have until you're at a certain level and someone says you need it to do this job.
Okay. And you're going to have to eventually repair or replace those tents and chairs and tables. How do you factor that into your pricing and how do you go about pricing?
You don't really. It just is going to
Okay.
happen. So in general, the rental world is you price your things to get back in 10 rentals. So that's one season, and then everything after that is just profit. So like you just try to be as careful as you can with your equipment and fix it here and there, but you don't like price an item knowing that you're gonna have to fix it.
Right.
You just more price it on it cost X, so we divide that by 10. It doesn't always work out, but it's like a good kind of close rule.
Okay, great. No, that's a good guideline. And I would imagine a lot of the stuff that happens with those things, you either end up throwing them away and replacing them, or maybe in the example of a tent or a table, you'd be able to fix it in house.
Yeah, totally. And so a lot of people think like, this is kind of cheap stuff and whatever, but this is made if you buy the correct equipment, it's made for
Mm,
the rental industry and they're tough. Like I have chairs that are 19 years old right now
wow.
that we only thing we gotta do is clean them with magic erasers and they look brand new. If you just bought a table from Lowe's, yeah, it's 2 years tops. But like the tables that I bought, they're like 200 bucks a piece, but I bought from other companies and they're 40 years old at this
Wow.
point, but
Yeah.
they still look new because
Yeah.
you're spending money for longevity.
Right. Yeah. I had still my current business partner, but one of our first businesses, I remember us saying that we can't afford to buy cheap stuff,
Right.
especially if you're going to be in it for the long haul. So, speaking of suppliers, then, can you give us some tips on finding good ones who to deal with? What
So this
regard?
business is weird. It's still old school. Like you
Okay.
can't go to some website and like order something. And if there is a website where you order stuff, you know that it's cheap.
Okay.
This is all reps. Like you go to the company tables, chairs, tents, whatever. You find out who their rep is from your area, and then you talk to them. If you're ever buying something where it's just a click, you know it's probably not good, and it is hard to find these guys. Like it's they make it hard. this should be easier. And they haven't caught up with like online social media stuff yet either. It's very old school,
Okay.
but like a simple Google search will get you started. Basically, there's like 15 different Facebook groups dedicated to this party rental industry. So if you just join one or two of them and you ask questions, people will tell you.
Oh, okay. Good. So Facebook groups is the way to go.
Yeah, you just type
Yeah.
in Facebook like party
Yeah.
rental,
There's got to
event rental
be
groups.
there's got to be conventions too.
Yeah, there's a convention every year. It's called American Rental Association. It's rental as a whole. So they got equipment and they have party rental.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool. I just think they're a little expensive. That's $800 to go to it.
Mm,
But
okay.
you get to see everyone who makes the equipment.
And you get to see the product too and actually, right? Hold
Yeah,
it and
actually feel it, look at it.
right. Huh. Well, let's talk about the time involved. If someone were starting it with themselves and maybe a buddy or two or a small crew, walk us through what happens from the time that maybe somebody contacts you for a rental. Then what happens?
Okay, so we'll just start like the weekend dude. Maybe he's
Okay.
got 2 tents
Or she.
or she. Yep, that's true. So you get your phone call. You got to make sure you call back quick enough because if you don't, they've already moved on. But you send them a quote. They look at the quote. All good. You turn it into a reservation, and then you have to mark it down so you don't accidentally send it out to someone else.
Yeah. Are you asking for a deposit at this point?
Yeah, it's up to you, but yeah, we do a 25% non-refundable down payment. We don't call it a deposit because deposit it seems like you can get it back.
True.
No. Down payment is I have promised this to you.
Right.
I've committed this and saying no to other people. So if you cancel on me, I'm out. So I keep your 25%.
Right. That's fair.
Day of is simply you just load the stuff, you go set it up and then well, I suggest not setting up the day of the event. Always go the day before because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And then you come back 1 or 2 days later and take it down. And some of these smaller tents, 20, like 20 by 20, 20 by 30, 20 by 40, you can do by yourself. It's just going to take about half hour longer or maybe
Okay.
an hour.
You can put up those tents yourself?
Yeah. It's just a lot of walking
Really?
back and forth to
Okay.
unfold stuff. But
Right.
after that, it's pretty easy.
Right. Okay. And what percentage of your sales would you think would happen on the weekend versus during the week?
It's almost nearly 100% on the weekend. Most events are on the
Okay.
weekend. The only ones that happen during the week are like business things.
Mhm.
And it depends on your area if you're getting those or not.
Right. Okay. Well, which products are generally the most lucrative to buy and rent?
Just the basics, just
Okay.
basic tent, table, chair. Actually, tables and chairs are the most lucrative because if you buy right, they're going to last a long time and you're going to make a lot of money on them.
Right. I was involved in the self-storage industry for about 18 years. And my business partner actually was a custom home builder. So we built really nice buildings and then you rent them out for 40 years, 50 years, however long, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So build and buy quality. Are you still doing, as far as the tent rental business, just tents and tables and chairs, or did you also branch into the cutlery and the plates and like decorations and whatever else you can rent?
Yeah, at a certain level, you have to expand beyond that. Like weddings are big money. So we got dance floors, we got lights. We
Mm,
did get into the dishes and silverware and,
yeah.
glassware, all that stuff. Big area was catering equipment. There's a lot of offsite weddings in either people's backyards or at these barn venues, and the barn venues never have a kitchen because they're trying to, not spend too much money on codes.
Right.
So we're setting up kitchen tents with ovens and grills and fridges all the time. And it's all dependent on area. I tried expanding into like some fancy things, like fancy chairs and super fancy expensive tents. And no one in my area wanted to pay for those. But
Mm,
so over time I learned my lane. I'm in
right.
the I'm in the base of like a mountain region. So my area is rustic. So I spend money on rustic items like, fruit wood, kind of like a walnut stained stuff. And then just the basic stuff, the white tents and the white chairs. And I learned my lane. Other areas, gold might be like the number one thing. So you spend a lot of money on gold stuff.
Right. And those trends change too, right?
They do, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to be factor that into your buying. And
Hmm.
as you expand like that, now you've got the question of, okay, where am I going to put all this stuff during the week?
Yeah. So I ended up buying a warehouse, but in the beginning, it was just out of my garage.
Right.
And I've known guys, they're massive guys now. They started out of a storage unit. And this one guy who comes to mind, he's then rented the one next to it and the next to it until eventually he had 2 rows of storage units that were all his.
Oh man, they
And
must
then
have loved him.
right, well, he paid
Yeah.
his bills.
Yeah.
And then he was like, okay, we're going to buy a place. But he was in like near New York City. So it was expensive. So he
Right.
waited as long as he could.
Sure.
But in general, when you start out, you start out in a shed, your
Hmm.
garage, whatever. And then you either find a cheap warehouse or you do like a big storage unit. There's a guy I know in Texas. He has 2 of the RV storage units where you can
Okay.
pull in a whole RV. So they're pretty big
Yeah.
and they're side by side and he works out of that. But yeah, you eventually need to keep getting bigger places.
So who are your customers? Like residential backyard kind of thing or corporate or
Most of mine are residential backyard weddings. That's where I make the most money is weddings. My corporate scene is not that big, but like in larger populated areas, your main customer might be corporate kind of things.
okay. Now, given how long you been in the business now?
19 years.
19 years. So your marketing advertising might be a little bit different than somebody starting out, but how are you connecting with those people that are booking weddings? Because some of those things are a year out, right?
Yeah, this business is entirely search based, as with a lot of service based businesses. No billboard or radio ad or newspaper thing is going to convince someone to have a party. They're either having a party or they're not.
Right.
So you don't want to spend any money on that other stuff. You want to spend the money on for when they search for this stuff, you show up and then you want to make sure that you're there to get the call. So entirely search based. Sometimes if there's a new thing that I have, which I don't do that much anymore because I'm done kind of like buying things that I think are going to be cool
Right.
because I learned my lesson.
Okay.
But sometimes maybe run a Facebook ad for awareness. But in general, people are searching for the thing. So you basically spend 100% of your money on Google ads.
Google Ads. And I suppose because this is going to be somewhat local for people, at least for the person starting out with a side hustle, that they're going to be relying on that Google business page.
Yeah. And that would be part of the ads. Your Google business and your Google ads would be connected. When you're first starting out, it's annoying, but you can list on Facebook Marketplace. But anyone who's ever listed on Facebook Marketplace knows it's annoying.
Right. So would you recommend maybe first step getting that Google business page, getting yourself set up there?
Yeah, so these weekend warrior people that we're doing, we were trying not to like have to have them have a website and do marketing and stuff. So yeah, the thing is Google business page, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and yes, it's going to be annoying, but you're going to post on all those sites and have all your friends and family reshare, and you should be able to get a lot of business from that. And then you can start taking that money and do a website. And when you're small, a website is simple, just a few pages,
Sure.
10 bucks, 12 bucks a month,
Yeah.
and then do the Google ads.
Did you reach out to or recommend reaching out to wedding planners, party planners?
At a certain level, I mean,
Okay.
if you just have small tents, like they don't have any use for you.
Okay.
But as you start getting bigger or you plan on getting bigger, then you can go reach out to them and see what they need. So that's what I did. I called caterers and wedding planners when I was still just kind of like small tent guy
Right.
and just asked like, what are things you need? And that's how I got into doing ovens and grills and stuff because the caterers said we rent this stuff all the time.
Oh, that's great. That's a great idea too. Is sort of knock on their door, invite them for a coffee, pick their
Yeah.
brain a bit. So you probably don't have a whole lot of repeat customers then. They're all one-offs.
It's interesting.
Or maybe you
There
get
is
a
a
lot of
lot of repeat
referrals. Yeah.
customers
Okay.
because there one lady who I've done all of her kids' weddings, events at their house every year, and 3 events at their house every year. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that if you do a good job, you get everything else and all their family members and all their graduation parties.
Nice.
So there's a lot of places that we go to often, But we do get the repeat customers and the caterers. Like one of our biggest things besides the weddings is the caterers, and we're doing multiple kitchen tents a weekend. And that's just always, we know where we're going. We've been there a
Right.
hundred times,
Yep.
and it's just all kind of easy at this point.
So you bought and own the, deep fryers and ovens and whatever it is that the caterers need?
Yeah. Caterers need ovens, grills, and refrigerators, sometimes freezers. There's never there's a one-off for, like, a deep fryer, like you said, but I'm not buying it when it's only
Right.
needed once a year.
Yeah. Okay. And that's something that you wouldn't want to be storing at the storage facility anyway.
Right.
Yeah. I had a colleague of mine had a storage facility and it was always clean, no problems. All of a sudden he had a rat problem.
Mm,
And they did the whole fumigation thing, rat problem returned, and that's what it was a whole deep fryer in somebody's storage locker.
that would suck, and they're tough to clean, like, it would be annoying to clean every week.
So talk to us a bit about earnings. Again, going to the person that wants to start this as a side hustle.
Yeah, so as a side hustle, after your first 10 rentals, about it's paid for. So then it's just the cost of you and one dude. Maybe you have insurance, maybe you don't.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say whatever, but you're looking at a pretty significant return on investment after those 10 rentals. You're just
Yes.
factoring in your time and maybe one other person's time. You're probably storing in a garage. So you can be making close to probably 70 to 80% profit on those. As you get bigger and you need more people, obviously costs go up, and you can expect anywhere from 30 to 50% profit on each job. And that has a lot of factors of efficiency. One of the reasons I do so successfully in my area is because I am more efficient than my competitors.
Right.
I have spent a lot of money on things to make everything go faster. Even if it only takes 2 minutes off each job, got 10 jobs a day. And then all that kind of adds up. I take 20 minutes off here. I take, an hour off of this because I bought this tool. It all adds up so you can fit in more jobs or just be more profitable.
What would be one example of that? Something that you would have integrated that was caused it to be more
Yeah,
efficient.
so I'll do an obvious one is a jackhammer to put in steaks.
Okay.
So if you put in, I have tents that require close to 80 steaks when you put them in. They're
Right.
big tents.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do that by hand, that's an hour and a half, 3 guys each. And then you're tired after that. So now the
Yeah.
rest of your day is kind of bad. So jackhammer, you're looking at 15 minutes to do it. One
Right.
guy.
Right.
A non-obvious one is all our chairs are on good moving dollies, like the carpeted
Mm.
dollies with
Yep.
really, really good wheels. So I don't need a whole bunch of hand carts for people to load those in trucks or whatever.
Right.
We can all wheel them in and wheel them out. So you just have to look at anywhere you can save a little bit of time,
Right.
and that all adds up.
And someone starting out too, that's probably a potential tip as well as get them to wander around to other places that are having parties and set up ones that you can go to and just see what they're doing as far as the setup, the takedown, what they've got there. Just that, oh wow, that's a good idea. That's an efficiency.
Yeah, if you can. This is
If
all
you
happening
can,
during
right?
the
As long
week.
as it's not a backyard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're doing mostly residential, then you could just pull power from wherever you need it if you're doing the whole kitchen thing. So that's probably not an issue.
Yeah. I mean, then we can also just rent generators too. So
Ah, okay. Right. But that's something that you got to take into account. So you've got the weekend warrior. He or she starts with the tent, tables, chairs, and things are going well. The stuff's paid off. They want to scale. But there's that shift from doing it all yourself to hiring crews to go out and do the work. And you're not there to supervise them. That could be scary. How did you deal with that? Or was that even an issue for you?
it was. And I think it's an issue for everyone until you learn, until you go through it and you're like, okay, I should have done this a lot longer ago. Because you want to be on every single job. But then you don't own a business, you own a job. You have to be at everything. Like, let's say
Right.
you wanted to sell your business. No one is going to buy that because they'll be buying themselves a job. People want to buy something that can run itself.
Hmm.
So I'd say the sooner the better. You start hiring people to take over your tasks, and and then your life kind of improves and you can focus on the things that you're good at. Like Maybe you're good at being in the office, or maybe you're good at visiting people to like drum up business, or you're the builder and you build cool new things. But it is hard and it gets easier each time you do it. Like my first give up was, okay, we're working way too many hours. Let's do 2 crews.
Okay.
So I needed to have a crew handling things. And I was still on a crew. And then my next one was, I can't be taking these phone calls all the time on the road. So then I got an office manager who does all that. And then now I'm letting kids go who are like, they just started working for the first year here and they're driving big trucks. And it's just like, I don't care anymore. This is just better than me having to pay attention to everything.
Right. Yeah. There's a point where you just got to let go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And was there a point where you thought, okay, I'm so glad I did this?
Yeah. The past few years, especially hiring the office manager, like I'm not good on the phones. I'm kind of like a little rude. Even, I'm kind of short with people. He's much better at it. He can get people to pay before, they've just called to get some information and he's got them a whole quote and tells them the price and whatever. I don't close them that fast. I send them the quote and then hope they call back.
Right.
So yeah, pretty much every single time I brought people on to take stuff off, I'm always glad and wish I did it sooner. Cause again, so if I want to sell and I'm a pretty decently sized company, it's at this point an investor or someone who has money looking to make money who's going to buy, and they don't want to come in and work 60 hours a week. They want to buy a business that runs itself.
Sure. And what are your gross revenues at?
700, I could be a lot larger,
Sure.
but I have no desire. Basically, I've taken this money from this and done other things that are not as labor intensive.
Okay.
My friend who I went to college with, he grew to 12 million,
Same
but
industry? Same
yeah, same
business?
industry. Yeah,
Okay.
he started a little after me.
Okay.
Yeah, he's making 12 million a year. He's got like 125 employees and nightmares all the time. So I got to a point and I'm like, I'm good. I'm good here.
Right. And then, like you said, take that money and put it into things that are more passive income businesses, passive income investments. So
Yeah.
it really frees up your time.
So one of the things we did was buy a wedding venue, and that's because it's in the same world, kind of.
Yeah.
And now don't have to go to people to set up their wedding. They just come to us and it's already set up.
Oh, nice. Plus, you've got the diversification of the real estate piece now asset in your portfolio.
Right.
Very smart. So I know it's going to vary town to town, city to city, county to county, but generally what's kind of a range for what a tent? I think you mentioned when we first started talking a 20 by 20 tent, just for somebody to get an idea of the revenue numbers.
Yeah. So anywhere from $300 to $500, depending on where you're at. In my area, it's around 300.
Okay.
Other areas I've seen it anywhere from $500 to $800, but it's entirely dependent on your market.
Do you have to clean them up at all before you take them down?
So you just have to be careful when you take them down. You put some money into some good tarps, and
Okay.
you put the tarp down whenever you put it up and take it down. Customers freak out because they're like, "That's dirty," or "That's a blue tarp. I didn't order blue." And you're like, "No, this is just to keep your stuff clean." But yeah, they do just get kind of dusty and dingy throughout the season. It's just gonna happen, pollen, whatever, and they're pretty easy to clean. Like especially the smaller ones, you just put them on the ground
Right.
and scrub them real quick, and they're
Right.
clean. Your bigger ones, you can still clean by hand, but you can bring it to a much larger company than you,
Hmm.
and they have tent washers. They're just basically giant washing machines that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy,
Wow.
and these giant tents fit in there, and you clean them.
Right. And I would imagine the salesperson for those tent companies can walk through with the new purchaser what they need to do as far as upkeep and setup and what they'll need and all that.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of the companies do have YouTube videos about how to set up, and if it's not really their tent, it's all the tents are the same. There's
Right.
a lot of YouTube things. I mean, my
Yeah.
YouTube channel has all the different tent setups too.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So what could someone expect to earn, say, starting out and then as they're growing it?
Well, that one's tough. Like when I first started out, I was making $30,000 in the summer. Now I'm making 700,000. I told you my friend's making 12 million. There's companies making 50 million.
Okay.
A lot of people think that like, you don't see these tents and you don't think about it ever, but these are big. companies. 50 million is even like a scratch in the bucket. There's companies making 100, $150 million renting out tents, tables, and chairs. Think about all the border things. Think about any disaster situation. Think about PGA tours. Like I did a tent with my friend down in Washington, D.C. for Trump's inauguration. It was the Fox News. It was the news tent. And that one job cost $2 million.
Wow.
Like just
Yeah.
one job.
Yep.
So it can range to whatever you want. So basically start out, you're making a few $1,000s extra a month. You keep going. You could be at 150 million, but you have to have the appetite for taking out loans and expanding. It's an insane business. It's one of the few businesses that you can bootstrap from nothing, start making a lot of money, and just sky's the limit.
Because like you said, you can start it all with about $2,000, right?
Yep.
Well, what do you think is the key to success for somebody getting into this business?
Key to success is you have to hustle. It's hard in the beginning,
Okay.
and you also have to listen to what's needed. You can quickly start thinking like this thing's cool, that thing's cool, but no one's ever asked you for it. You've never done any testing. We test by putting things on the website and see if it gets any request. And if it does, I either tell them, oh, it's booked up that weekend, or I just tell them the truth, like, which is a test. We're seeing if anyone wants it.
Got it. So at this point, you don't own that item. You're just going to put it up there and see if anybody wants it.
Yeah. Which
Right.
is what I wish I
Okay.
did with some of the very fancy things, because I would have realized real quick people didn't want it and I didn't have to waste my money on it.
Right. Okay.
But in general, it's hustling, and I'd say a lot of Google ads. And if you're not good at Google ads, you pay someone, because your whole goal, you can't make any money if people don't call. So your whole goal is to get as many people into this funnel that you can, so that you can start taking jobs. And then the more people you have in your funnel, the more you can say no to people, because there's a lot of like difficult jobs. And if you have enough people calling you, you can say no to this person who wants this on their deck that you might scratch up and they're going to get mad at you. You can say no to them because the next day someone's going to call and it's just in a big open backyard.
Got it. So I was going to ask you, what would be an example of a difficult job?
Too tight, too far of a walk. Like,
Okay.
like people want things on decks. Or you can just tell a customer it's kind of going to be difficult. I
Right.
say no sometimes once a day, multiple times a day. But right now in the off season, I say no like twice a week. I went on a meeting and everything's just kind of tight. We want a little more space to work. I just said no. And I told him flat out, like, someone's going to call for me for this tomorrow and it's going to be in a big open field. So I don't need you. I was much nicer than that, but
Right.
I
That's
used
when
to
you,
say yes to everything, but I learned to say no and I'm happier.
or that's one of the ones that you want to pass off to your rock star office manager
Right.
to deal with.
Usually if they're difficult, I say to go to this other company, like, oh, he'll help you out so he can deal with the difficulties.
There you go. Well, if you were starting this business over, is there anything you'd do differently?
Yeah, it's entirely, I would get more people to take over things for me. I would make it a business that runs itself more than I have to see everything.
And I guess that comes with being in the business for a little while to get a feel for, hey, these investments that I made in these hard products are actually making me money. And I see a path to maybe doing this as my full-time work.
Right.
Okay. So where's the best place for our listeners to connect with you, maybe find out more about the business?
So the website where I'm teaching everyone how to start a party rental business is startapartyrentalcompany.com.
Oh, perfect URL.
Yeah, that's actually a course. Like I made a course and I was very nervous about it. So like I went crazy in this course and everyone who's taken it has said like other people's courses aren't like this long and this good. For people who just want to get a little bit of information, I am the tent guy on YouTube and you can learn a lot for free there.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Adam, for your insights on the tent rental business and some insider tips, and of course, for being today's side hustle hero.
Thanks. It was fun.
So do you think you'll become a weekend warrior in the tent rental business? If it's something you end up pursuing, I'd love to hear about it. If you got the impression that Adam is one of those people with a real entrepreneurial mindset, you're spot on. He's expanded his offerings to include other party-related rentals. You heard him mention kitchen equipment rentals, ovens, refrigerators, but he does much more, including, for example, restroom trailer rentals. What a great complement to his core business. It's just one of the side hustles that he talks about in his book, 101 Real-World Side Hustles. That book and the ideas contained in it are the focus of our next episode. So if you're searching for just the right side hustle to start, or you want to hear tips to strengthen your entrepreneurial mindset, be sure to check it out. Well, that's a wrap for today. You'll find links to Adam's course, Start a Party Rental Company, and the full show notes at our website, sidehustlehero.com. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment to add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.